Well, last week, the Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara announced he will not stand for re-election in October. Cote d'Ivoire has a history of fraud elections and transition of power. Ouattara has overseen a dramatic economic expansion and improvement in the business climate since 2011. What does this mean for the outlook for Cote d'Ivoire, and what can we expect in terms of political and economic developments over the next 6 months? I'm being joined by a senior analyst, West African Market, Docker Frontier London, Matt Kinninger. Hello, Matt. Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
All right, Mr. Ouattara's decision not to run for re-election comes at an interesting time for Cote d'Ivoire. How has the economy or the country fared under his presidency?
Yes, so Cote d'Ivoire has experienced a very healthy decade of economic growth since Mr. Ouattara came to power in 2010, 2011. The country has recovered from quite a disruptive civil war, very brief, but nonetheless quite disruptive. And the country has come to be viewed as an investor darling. So this has been thanks to fairly prudent macroeconomic policy, the introduction of pro-business reforms, and this has encouraged both domestic and foreign direct investment. There have been a couple of hiccups along the way. So, for example, Cote d'Ivoire has suffered a number of security challenges. We've seen a few high-profile terrorist incidences over the last few years, and there's also been the example of the army mutiny that took place in 2017. So that did sort of strain the country's reputation. But by and large, Cote d'Ivoire has fared fairly well under Mr. Ouattara, and he leaves behind a very upbeat economic legacy. Here at Docker Frontier, we are expecting Cote d'Ivoire to remain one of the fastest growing economies in sub-Saharan Africa over the next year. And this is largely due to the economic policies Mr. Ouattara introduced under his presidency.
Now, why would you say that Mr. Ouattara has made this decision, and what does it mean for the outcome of the election later this year? Do you see the next president follow the same path?
Yes, so it's a very interesting question because there was a lot of uncertainty recently about whether he would actually stand for re-election. He had made noises up until last month, or up until this month, that he was interested in running for re-election, partly because of his very strong economic track record in the country. But it became increasingly clear over the last 3 to 6 months or so that his potential decision to run for re-election was fueling political tensions within the country. A lot of people were very unhappy with his proposal to run for a third term. And given that the new constitution, which was introduced a few years ago, has presidential term limits of only 2 terms, this did have the potential to cause quite significant political instability in the country. So effectively, he's done it to ensure or to prevent rising political tensions and instability in the country. In terms of the outlook for the election, it's very difficult to tell at the moment who will be the victor in the election. We have seen political alliances fracturing in Cote d'Ivoire over the last year. We are expecting to see further churn and change in the political landscape in the country over the coming 6 months. And so it's very difficult at the moment to tell who will be the next president. And so that does add a bit of uncertainty to the outlook for Cote d'Ivoire.
So what can businesses expect over the next 7 months leading up to the election?
So by and large, as I mentioned, we are expecting to see fairly healthy levels of economic growth continue in Cote d'Ivoire, lots of opportunity, a fairly healthy business environment. And there are a couple of sort of highlights I would point out. One is the government is going to increase spending and investment this year. So this does generate opportunities for businesses as the government tries to win re-election next year or this year. But we are also expecting to see an increase in taxes. So companies could experience or could see their tax bill increase because the government is increasing spending. Its revenue base is not necessarily increasing as rapidly, and so it wants to ensure that its fiscal base or its fiscal position remains stable this year. So we could see an increase in taxes. And additionally, there could be some very localized short-term operational disruption around the election. So in the months leading up to the election, we could see some protests that could become disruptive for companies in the short term. But by and large, I think it's very important to note that we are not expecting a return to civil unrest like we saw in 2010 or 2011. So generally, it's going to be a sort of fairly upbeat 6 to 7 months ahead of the election.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Matt, for your time there. Matt, a senior analyst, West African market at Docker Frontier, London. Thank you for your time. And in the months since Sierra Leone's largest iron ore mine laid off almost all its workers, the once bustling town of Lunsa has emptied out. This report shows how the remaining residents struggle to get by without the industry on which most depended on.
Like his father before him, 35-year-old Abdoulaye Bangura had spent much of his adult life working at the Marampa mine, Sierra Leone's largest iron ore mine. Its abrupt closure over a legal dispute last October meant he was one of 1,700 workers left without a job, or nearly 5% of the population of Lunsa, which means land of stones in the local language. Like many others, Bangura supported his extended family on his salary from the mine.
People who are living in the mining areas, all their hope is on mining. Most of them cannot even embark on agriculture. They just depend on mining. So if that mining closes, it's really difficult for the people now. Even some of the crops that some of us planted, when they came, they destroy. Oh, we're going to pay for this one. They don't care about this one. They don't give us that money. They do not relocate us. So that's why you find out this particular year, people are really suffering here.
But compared to the rest of the people living off the mine and the local economy that sprung from it, Bangura is lucky because he has land to feed his family. They are victims of an increasingly acrimonious dispute between President Julius Maada Bio and international iron ore miners that led the government to revoke their licenses last year, stalling all exports of the mineral, which previously generated a quarter of the country's annual export revenue.
There is nothing else in Lunsa to do without the mines. So the mines was the source of life. This community is going to become a ghost community once again. And that everything is going to be dead. Buildings are going to be dilapidated. People are going to move out. So the entire township of Lunsa will become, yet again, another ghost town. So as someone from Lunsa, this hurts.
In Lunsa, the streets are unusually quiet and only a few stores in the once busy central market remain open. Taxi drivers, shop owners and petty traders alike say that business has ground to a halt.
Here are some of the vegetables, cans and everything that was in here. And as a matter of fact, about 2-3 days ago, we have to discredit most of them because they've expired. So this is the damages.
Till now, Sierra Leone's government has ignored international court orders for it to reinstate the license of SL Mining. The company has denied the government's accusations it was not paying what it owed.
Tunisia has cut its economic growth forecast for this year to 1% from the 2.7% predicted in the 2020 budget. According to the country's prime minister, the coronavirus crisis will knock 0.5 percentage point off growth. Well, that's a wrap on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimezi Obi Iwago.